part. But then you had others who were using that momentum to, destroy the city and do things that weren't in a way to benefit the movement. But they had started out peaceful. They had always been peaceful. What started the violence had always been white individuals or white police officers. And then they blamed that on Black people.
These protests were not solely, although Black Lives Matter received a majority of the media attention, these protests were a variety of different organizations. The Afro Socialists were protesting, a Merge Caucus, Antifa, and just a variety of people. So this is kind of the thing. It was a lot of people that were doing wrong. It was poor people who were angry and saw an opportunity to grab a television. And to be quite honest, I don't fault them for it. It's not necessarily my approach if I was protesting, but sometimes you going to grab that TV when you get the opportunity, and I don't blame them because TV's all in all of our faces all the time. Sometimes when you're poor, you want that.
Simply, if you're hungry, you're gonna find a way to eat.
Yeah.
And I'm actually surprised I didn't see more direct acts of violence against law enforcement. I thought motherfuckers was really going to start. If you listen to the end of that Dave Chappelle 846 joint, that didn't get any media attention that I thought it was going to be. But I thought essentially he was saying if shit doesn't change, Black folks going to really start popping off on police officers. He pretty much said that. And while he wasn't advocating it, I thought it was something that should have been paid attention to. And I was expecting to see law enforcement take more losses, so to speak.
Yeah, but there's the Black folks. It's funny. We have our spurts of doing crazy shit, but for the most part, we are nowhere near as violent as people make us out to be, and that's why that shit doesn't happen. If Black people were as violent as we're made out to be, the whole fucking world would get burned down.
Right.
That's the truth. I mean, look at the continent. Look at what was done to the continent.
Yeah.
It's just.
So, Kristen is trying to get in, Trey. Do you see that?
Okay, hold on. Let's see. Hey, let's see. Oh, there you go, Paul. Okay. Good morning, Paul. Good morning, Kristen. You there?
Their audios are connecting.
All right. All right, we're about to start. Thank you. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the fire this time. We have a new person that is joining us. Kristen, do you want to introduce yourself to the crew?
Oh, yeah. Sorry, my audio was off, so I just turned it back on.
No problem. Thank you for joining us, by the way. Appreciate it.
Appreciate you guys for having me.
No
Hi. So my name's.
Go ahead, sorry.
No, it's okay. My name's Kristen. I'm originally from the DMV area, so Maryland, DC, Virginia, and I just came back from Osaka about 3 months ago. And as probably everyone knows, or everyone has done before, I was teaching English over there. So I'm happy to discuss some of the issues that we are currently facing in the socio-political climate with you guys. And thank you for having me.
No doubt. Appreciate you joining us, Kristen. Hey, Paul. Good morning, Paul.
How you talking? You want talking to your daughter, fam?
Yo, Trey.
She's the star. She's the star.
She is. I want to introduce a special guest today. Hold on just a second. Mega, do you have something you want to chime in on?
Yeah, man. Pull up the chat on your screen so you can see it. I'm trying to communicate with you about the Maurice's situation.
Maurice.
Yeah, I'm just saying, like, make sure you got your chat up too, because he's being blocked from entering.
That's weird. I don't know why.
Okay.
Yeah, it's the same information hasn't changed. I don't know. But sorry. I want to introduce our special guest today. He's a dancer from Brooklyn. He's toured around the world. He continues to tour doing choreography, dance projects. He's toured with Will Smith, Mariah Carey, The Brat. I had the pleasure of interviewing him a while ago for a story for Tokyo Weekender. He runs Speakeasy with DJ Sarasa, and I'm honored and I'm grateful to have Brooklyn Terry. Please welcome Brooklyn Terry to the show. Thank you, sir, for joining us.
Hey, thank you. What's up,
doubt,
everybody? Happy to be here.
No doubt.
In my stretched out T-shirt.
So I know, I'll just get the ball rolling. I know, since George Floyd died not too long ago after, you started, what is it? Was it Black Lives for, or?
Japan for Black Lives.
Japan for Black Lives, sorry. You started a website with your partner.
Mm-hmm.
That I guess she helps you run Speakeasy.
Naomi. Yeah, she's one of the people that run Speakeasy with me.
And you guys got a lot of great stuff on there on your website, especially when you're doing live chats and stuff. So can you talk about starting that?
So to be honest, the beginning of it, I started with a post just directed at the arts community, the Japanese arts community, people that do.
Naomi.
Yes. Yeah. Huh? Oh, wait.
And you
I'm
guys
listening
got
to
a lot
feedback.
of great stuff on there.
I think your Facebook is on.
You gotta mute yourself.
No. It's probably the Facebook. If someone has the Facebook feed up, it's live on Facebook. Sorry, I thought I was like, damn, I didn't.
All right, don't worry about it, Paul. Go ahead. Sorry.
So, I started with this post that was directed at like the arts community, people that dance, people that sing black music, DJs that play black music, or should I just say DJs? Because if you're DJing, you're only playing black music. You're not playing classical music, pretty much. And it was just like I was pissed because it was a lot of silence going on, and the silence was absolutely definite. And a lot of these people I've taught or I've worked with, and they're sitting knowing what the climate is, knowing going on, and they'll write me and send me a post of them dancing. I don't give a fuck about you dancing right now. Yeah, for real. I really don't care. Hey, listen to my mix. Fuck your mix. Like, it was really like that.
What up?
So I was really just annoyed with the situation. So I wrote this post. It was originally in English, but I needed Japanese people to understand it. So I asked my homegirl Naomi to translate it. And she's an amazing writer. She's the one that helps me. And she's also been so interested in just black culture, but not the entertaining side of black culture as most people like to go to. She wanted to know more about the reasons why the situations are like they are. She'd always been asking me questions. So she translated it, and she knew about the George Floyd thing, and she was kind of just in shock about everything. So I started that first panel discussion, which was insane. We had about 3,000 people watching live.
Wow.
And I think to this day we have more than 100,000 people who watched it.
Wow.
And that was really good, and it made me happy to get the chance to speak to so many people about the situation. But on the other hand, I felt like people wanted a conclusion. They wanted us to, to get to the bottom of what the situation does in the 4 hour, what the situation is in the 4 hours that we were on. And even though I said in the opening statement of that panel discussion that there is no conclusion, we are not going to solve this in the first 4 hours of a discussion. So I decided to keep going. But unlike the Black Lives Matter movement in Japan, I have a focus group of who I want to talk to. I'm not talking to the average Joe that gets up in the morning and goes to his salaryman job in a suit and tie, gets on a train and exposes himself to Corona every day. Not talking to him. I don't have the time or the patience to try to convince that dude why I matter. I also think that having to say that my life matters is almost ridiculous. I'm talking to people that perform black music and perform black dance and live side by side with Black culture every day, but still choose to ignore or just be ignorant to what our lives really are. So I'm not talking to the masses, even though a lot of people come. I'm not talking to all of them. I am talking to a very specific group of people. Yeah, so, and it really got started from me being angry and deciding to turn my anger, like I said in that article, into education. Instead of just being angry, I know I'm in Japan. I know people. There are a lot of people that don't know, even though they perform it. They're just wearing a costume and they truly don't know. So I decided to focus everything on them and educate them. But yeah, that's pretty much how we got it cracking.
Well, one thing I was actually impressed with also was it sounds like you have kind of a realized vision of what you want to do as far as this being a foundation. You trying to build a foundation in terms of talking to colleges, talking to the younger demographic to get at them early, which I thought was really forward thinking. It's like, wow, okay, I see where you're going with this, because it sounds like it makes room for Japanese people talking to Japanese people about racism in Japan.
I think that has been my my kind of happiest moments with this is that one, I ain't got I'm old. I ain't got time for old folks. Old folks are so set in their views and in their ways. And a long time ago, my boy who had, when I'd first met him, been coming to Japan for over 20 years. He said, and we were talking about dance. He said, it's easy to teach them how to dance and do the moves, but it's difficult to change the culture because the culture is rooted in thousands of years of history. So I'm not trying to make them change their entire culture, and especially starting with the old folks, because they've already been indoctrinated. They know what's up. It's programmed. It's there. It's seared into their psyche of who they are, that we are the bad ones. And so I'm not trying to deal with them. I'm trying to get with the fresh minds. And those are the people that we have to focus on, because the fresh minds are the ones that create tomorrow, right? So if we keep on dealing with these old stale minds, these motherfuckers ain't gonna be here much longer anyway. Well, okay, Japanese people do live forever, but I need to deal with the young minds, the minds that my children are growing up next to, right? And those are the ones who count, to be honest. Those are the ones who are actually going to make the changes. And if you look at the movement that's happening in the States, if you look at the super wide demographic, you have a few older white folks out there marching and protesting,
right?
But the majority is young white people, out of the white people, young people who are out there protesting, because those minds were reached, thanks to being woke. We make fun of the woke thing, but hey, woke works for a little bit, right? And thanks to movement like Bernie Sanders' movement, it really starts to open people's eyes. So instead of focusing, in short, instead of focusing on the old folks, I just want to deal with young folks and young minds doing our cool shit. You know what I mean? So
yeah. Good. Does anybody else have their hands up? Oh, Mega, go ahead, son.
First, I want to thank you again, Terry, for all the work that you do. I see you as an OG out here, and I know about your long history in educating Japanese people about house dance culture, and you are a pioneer out here when it comes to that. Basically, everybody I know that dances house out here knows Brooklyn Terry, or the person that teach them was taught by a person that was taught by you, or various different magnitudes of interaction with you.
You're making me old.
I'm out here working with the hip hop community, like a lot of us, and I come across a lot of people who love Black entertainment culture. We're kind of the dominant export from the United States. All of our shit is the dopest and most vibrant. And I'm curious what your thoughts are on the number of people who are actively participating in hip hop or house dance culture that are actually informed about Black issues. I'd say for me, the numbers are kind of dismal.
They're dismal, and it's because they're not participating in the culture. Like, we have to stop taking for granted that people are participating in the culture. They're participating in activities of the culture, like small little activities. Like, oh yeah, I dance to house, I dance to hip hop, I rap, but that is not the culture. They don't live the culture. You know, they don't. Look. Cultures are made by what a music, a dance, a language, and art. Right? Those are like the foundations of a culture, and you have to live those things. You can't just. I'm gonna jump in and on every Tuesday of the month. So that's 4 days a month. I'm gonna go to class.
Can I interject real quick? Because there's one thing that you said about culture, which was our culture is built on trauma. That was the thing that really struck me. So you have these people that are eating off of our culture, practicing it, not understanding that it's the foundation of it is built on trauma. And the Black identity globally is facilitated and presented by white people, by white people.
Anything after the Middle Passage is like us rebuilding our culture through trauma, and that's even people, because they were dealing with colonialism from the continent. So we're rebuilding everything from trauma, and these people will eat off of it, but they think they're in our culture, you know. But if they don't take the time to learn that we were going through the traumas, or that we're going through traumas, how much a part of the culture can they truly be? And that's my issue. That's why I say that, they're just performing activities of the culture. They're not like really being a part of the culture. So I don't consider them that.
Well, Kristen, if you go to, it's Brenda, you said it's in the upper right-hand corner.
Participants. If you go to participants, on the bottom, you'll see invite, mute me, and raise hand. You can click raise hand, just in case we don't get to see you doing that. But
okay.
Thank you, Kristen.
Thank you for the clarification, because I was like, is there a hand raising emoji? And I was just like,
you're so analog.
I was like, I did not want to interrupt the spiel. I was like desperately looking for this emoji. I was like, where is it?
Yeah, sorry, I get long-winded. You can cut me off, man.
No, you're good. In fact, like, I completely agree with everything you're saying. And I just basically wanted to add on to that, because it's funny. I honestly think the Japanese culture as a whole has this habit of just like borrowing things and integrating it into their own culture. Because like backstory, like they didn't really have like a writing script until like the Chinese gave them one. And they're like, okay, we'll like use this a little bit. And then they also like took some parts of Southeast Asian culture as well when they were immigrating to the island. But anywho, when you were talking about how they like to participate, like kind of not actively, like in terms of like the deep rooted, like social, political issues, they like to participate in like the surface level stuff. It's funny because, like, do you know Amemura in Osaka?
Yep, I know.
Like, they love their 90s hip hop fashion there. It's like crazy. I like walked there for the first time and I was like, yo, are these people wearing like cargo shorts and like hoodies and like the baggy t-shirts with the Looney Tunes and all that stuff on it?
Don't make fun of my childhood.
No, I was wearing that stuff too, but I was just like, this is such a throwback. And so me and my friend went there because she's like, I need to buy like a new sweater. And I was like, okay, cool, let's go and see if we can find anything. One of the merchant guys who was there was actually wearing an African-American history t-shirt with MLK on it, Malcolm X on it, Sojourner Truth, Harriet Tubman. And for a little while, I just kind of like, I didn't stare directly at his face, but I was just like giving him glimpses, like, that's interesting.
Yeah.
So while my friend went to put on her shirt, like, I was like, oh, like, I see you have like a African-American history t-shirt on. He's like, yes, this is my favorite shirt. And I was like, oh, like, so do you know when African-American History Month is? And he just looked at me. He's like, no, what is that? I was like, well, it's this month, actually. And he's like, oh, I just like this shirt. It's my favorite shirt. And I was like, oh gosh, like, so I completely understand what you mean when you say like they resonate at a surface level, but when it comes to like actually being down with the culture, I'm like, you really don't care too much, or you just don't want to participate in it that deep. So
when you approach things, this is my opinion. Like if I play table tennis, right, I don't really have a responsibility to table tennis because it's just an activity, right? So when you approach things as an activity, you don't really have a responsibility to it. So you're in that comfortable place where you can jump in and jump out whenever you want, yeah? But if you approach things culturally, like if I do kung fu or do karate or do kendo or what is it? Akabane, when you bend the bamboo and the flower arrangement things, right? When I approach things as a culturally, I have a responsibility to that. I have a responsibility to that and to the people who are teaching me, to keeping the legacy, creating a legacy, to so many things. I have a responsibility to when I approach things as a culture. So in order to stay in that comfortable space, they approach our things simply as an activity. Like if you listen to, sorry, my Japanese folks that listen to, but Japanese gospel makes me cringe a little bit. And I'm not a religious man, but I love gospel music because the power behind it, the culture behind gospel is amazing. And, the fact that it was our people sending each other codes to escape, to kill the slave masters, to directions of where they had to go in the beginning, you still feel that power in the music because that is the culture of the music. But when you just sing and you do like a flat, boring ass riff with no culture behind it, it sounds exactly that deep. It sounds about as deep as a tablespoon of water.
Hey, Paul, you got something?
Mike.
Oh wait, who? Let's see.
Let me go. Mega was first.
Mega, go ahead, real quick. Go ahead.
I agree with everything everybody said. There's cosplay is real out here. People love to adapt something and put on the accoutrements to make you appear authentic and just feel the type of way. And so I can appreciate from the Japanese position that they maybe identify with the kind of otherness and the outsider aspect about being black, and they feel as though they want to be cool or some bullshit like that. But it's also an issue within our own community, within these things of culture like hip hop and dance music, where participants are just not very well informed whatsoever. And so regardless of your skin type, I think it's generally important for us to kind of inform the people around us more often, with all aspects of this shit. Working within hip hop culture, I mean, I got cats that have been making hip hop music for 20 years and they've earned their stripes. But if you ask them, the origins or the forefathers, they might still be coming up short too. So again, I just want to say that I really appreciate the approach, and I think it's upon all of us to educate those who are within the cultures that we're operating within. So whether it's hip hop, dance, or just interacting with our children at these schools, it's good to kind of like point them out in the right direction and not saying that any of us are being critical, but there's so many teachable moments out here because there's so many people who are ignorant to a lot of shit
I think Paul's coming up, but can I just say on both y'all's behalf, to further the context that you're coming from, is that a lot of the hip hop kids or people that you guys know or we know, they're not just into hip hop. They're like deeply knowledgeable about the culture, and they know things that a lot of people that we would know. Hold on, just a second. Paul, go ahead. Sorry, I got.
Is that me? First of all, Maurice, are you in the Bahamas? What's up, bro? Where you at, family? All I was gonna say is, and I don't want this to come off as like being racist. You know what I'm saying? But
that's the scariest thing.
You know what I'm saying? Like I don't, because I, you know, there's cool white people, but I blame white people. I'm gonna keep it 1,000. So let me tell you a story, right? And it was just a short one. So there is teachers, particularly English teachers, international school teachers, who use hip hop as a way to make them seem cooler, and they're not black. And so they do, and they use it from like a comedic standpoint or an inauthentic standpoint to try to bridge the gap, because they know that when they come from a place or something like that, people are expecting them to be knowledgeable in some shape, form, or fashion about hip hop. And because of the way that, you know, rhyming and all of these things are connected through music and teaching children, a lot of what is happening is the dilution of hip hop culture in order to serve this kind of purpose. But it's always from a comedic standpoint, it's inauthentic. And so when you have people, so if you look at like our movements now, it's because a lot of Black people are in Japan for longer periods of time. And so we're able to say, hey, we're about to march, we're about to do this, we're about to open up businesses, we're about to have these kind of dialogues. But before that, someone else was promoting our culture because that's what Japanese people see and that's what they wanted. So with gospel music, you know, with you know, hip hop, I mean, you could pull anything that's Black. And I'm not just talking about just African American, I'm talking about like from other places too, Caribbean culture, you know, you look at reggae and stuff like that. They are getting it from somebody like Brooklyn Terry, who was here, but he can tell you if he was here long enough, it wasn't a lot of us. Because when I came in 99, it was zilch. Like it was few. And I, you know what I'm saying? Like we have multiplied, so we're able to speak through our authentic voice, but they hadn't received that. And so like I even have my English, you know, my English school, international school is above a dance studio. And so even when all this stuff happens, I'm able to talk directly to the teachers, right? I'm able to do, you know, my bootleg graffiti lesson with them, but it's authentic. I can give them history. I'm able to talk about the gangs because I grew up with them, and talk about b-boying versus this activity that y'all doing and what the battle is, you know, who was a part of that. I'm able to talk about the Zulu Nation because I was in it. Like, you know what I'm saying? So it's like, you have, you know, they have been receiving this message through other people, right? And so that's where I think like, and on top of that, when you have hip hop as a PE activity, like they do it for PE, like ain't PE. Like I was like, what you want me to? Because I taught PE, and they was like, yeah, we want to do hip hop dance, and I was like, oh, I rap, fam. I mean, we can do some Go Noodle or something like that, but you know, like to have me out here embarrassing I b-boy when I was little on some cardboard, but I got no style.
You got something, Maurice? Go ahead. Yeah, you go.
Maurice. We can't hear you, brother. Maurice, we can't hear you.
You're unmuted.
Yeah, I don't know.
You might have mic troubles.
Yeah. Okay. I'll come back.
Yo, if the sisters don't want to say anything, can I say something? Can I jump back in?
Go ahead, bro.
Okay. So what Tracy said is how they know like a lot of stuff. To be honest, my 25 plus years coming here, what I've learned is they don't know. They know about the thing, like as in the product.
Right.
They can tell you, they can grab a record and say, I own this record. I know every single person. We hear you now, brother. I know every single person that sat in on the band. I know when it was distributed. I know which company was distributed. I know all the backup singers, blah, blah, blah. They know everything about the product itself. So they know the what, but they don't know the why. And that's what the case always is out here. You know, Mudo is the king of digging. And I'll give him that, the king of digging. But you digging the crates does not tell you who I am. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Digging in those crates is not going to tell you who we are. Mm-hmm. The thing that's going to tell you who we are is sitting and actually having a conversation with us outside of our product. Like, I don't want to have a conversation all the time about music, the way I dance. Yo, let's have a conversation with me outside of my product. You know. So yeah, and and I absolutely agree with Paul. I blame white people. Like, I ain't got shame in that game at all, because everything they know about us, they learned through white supremacy. Everything. So of course, if they learned it through white supremacy makes us jokey like that fucking NHK video. Yeah. So if they learn that all we do is shuck and jive, they're not going to think of us as any deeper, and they're not going to want to know anything beyond the product. And white supremacy taught them that they don't need to. And white supremacy taught them that they don't even know who they are.
So, Maurice, go ahead, man. Sorry. Maurice,
out on the beach. He's not trying to hear us. He's about to
hear us, bro?
Can you hear us? Go ahead, man.
I don't think he can hear.
No. Somebody else had their hand up. Sorry, did I miss somebody?
It was Mega.
Okay, go ahead, Maurice.
You hear me now?
Yeah, go ahead.
Nope.
No, man, he cut out.
You need a new mic, brother. You might need to put it. If you have headphones on, plug your headphones in, man.
I saw somebody else had their hand up.
I was going to blame white people for the same problem in the United States too when it comes to hip hop culture.
Yeah.
That's it. I mean, Little Yachty don't know shit about hip hop, and it ain't his fault.
Yeah.
He got OGs. Lil Yachty got OGs. Coaching them, no. I met them dudes. Them, they know. Them is Jeezy people. Like, they.
I mean, not to single out that brother in particular, but just to throw out a little rapper. You know what I mean? Like, there seems to be like a callous disregard for where the music comes from, and a focus on the capitalistic gain that it can be had from using that part of the culture. So, I'm a fierce proponent against that, and everything that came from the Clintons' Telecommunications Act in '96. I think it's the reason for the problem with media right now, and I think it's a major problem within the Black community in the way that our art is being distributed and the caricatures of our culture. So, yeah, I mean, for lack of a better term, white folks.
Can we
take it back to jazz?
Yeah, but at the same time, man, it's got to be, I think Laura Finesse was talking about this earlier. It's got to be substance driven now. You can't go out talking about I'm shooting like 40 dudes on my record. You can't really, you know what I'm saying? You can't say Black Lives Matter and then kill black people. Like, we can't do that. But go ahead, Rossi, go ahead, bro.
Yeah, but see, that's another thing, man, that's put on us, right? This ridiculous amount of responsibility in every single facet of who we are.
Yes,
We're the only people who have to have this amount of responsibility in every facet of what we do. There were white bands singing songs like "Pour Some Sugar on Me." They had no responsibility of degrading white women, even though that's exactly what that song was doing, right? We're the only ones, because living in our blackness is so tense that we always have to have the responsibility of not even being able to fucking make a song that's just a song.
Right.
Yeah, we do have responsibility, of course, just as humans in general. But fuck, Chuck Berry said "Wop bamba loom bop wop bam boom," and nobody said shit to him about that.
I'm gonna get to Paul, but just a quick response to what you said though is like, okay, so we've had these protests, and every now and then I'll see a shooting. You know what I mean? It'll be something like a black on black crime, and my first thought when it comes to the white gaze is like, oh, they're gonna try and spin it. They're gonna try to say, well, we kill each other anyway, and it's like.
But it's the white gaze.
Away from that.
It's the white gaze, because I'm sorry, man. I'm sorry.
Go ahead,
I had a conversation with my boy, this British dude, when George Floyd first happened, and he wanted to make a statement. He wanted to say something to all of his students, whatever. And he asked me, like, how can I word this? And what I said to him is, like, us black people think in terms of we. Whatever we see, we have responsibility for. We're always like, oh man, they're doing this to us. Oh man, we can't be like that, right? So I said, what you have to say is you have to say, we started this, so now we have to finish this. We have to end it as we as in white men, right? And he's like, I don't know, because there's going to be a lot of pushback because a lot of people aren't going to see this as we're all like this. And I said, that's your issue. Because when black people saw George Floyd, we said we saw our faces on George Floyd. When white people saw that officer kneeling on his neck, y'all saw him.
Right.
Y'all saw him. You didn't put yourself in that position. So you have to accept the evils of who you are.
Which is
just like we accept the evils of who we are.
Yeah.
You know, it's always us that has to do that shit. You know how many white people shot white people in the past few weeks in America that didn't make it to the news?
Yeah. One of them just ran over some white lady, I think, yesterday.
Yeah, white people all the time. You just don't hear about that shit because of the white gays.
Right. Paul, go ahead, bro.
Sorry. All right, so I want first, let me ask Maurice a question. His question says, how far should we go here in this community to act as gatekeepers or protectors of the narrative when it comes to hip hop culture? And I would like to answer that.
Me too, though.
No, for sure. So
did everybody get that question?
Okay, it's in the chat. So how far should we go here, meaning Japan, in this community to act as gatekeepers and protectors of the narratives when it comes to hip hop culture? Okay. And I think that that's where we see like this whole respectability, and we have to be a certain way and upright, and you know all of these things, because if we don't protect our community, if we don't protect our culture, we have seen the effects of that, right? And so it's an unfortunate responsibility. And I'm speaking strictly to hip hop people. I'm not speaking to black people who don't do hip hop. So I'm speaking to strictly people who say that, you know, I'm living these 5 elements. I'm doing the hip hop. It's my life, culture. That's how I identify. So if you don't identify as hip hop, like, you know, I do. So from rip, you know, like that's like when people be like, oh, it's black hip hop, like, oh, I'm hip hop. This is it. No, this is what I live. So I promote that, right? I'm black and I'm hip hop, right? And so I promote that. So it's my responsibility. It's not everybody's responsibility, but I take it on my shoulders to say, this is what I'm doing. So I'm an expert. Come see me, right? And then I do things in my school or in the community that promote that, because I want them to come to me as an expert. Just like if you teach mathematics or you teach knitting or you teach, you know, whatever you do, if you coming from a different country and you say, I'm the expert, I'm the ambassador. I came here, I'm a hip hop ambassador, right? So, and I don't feel that everybody should do that. Because everybody doesn't have that background. Like my homegirl, she's really into gospel. So she feels that she's an expert in gospel, then she should go out there and correct it. But I mean, I was raised in the church. I know a lot of gospel, but I wouldn't say that I'm an expert. Well, you want to talk about these elements, come see, I'm with it. And I mean, you know, I have no problem with that. But I think if you saying you hip hop, you that's your responsibility.
Well, can I read? This is a comment from Facebook from Cuban artist Eric Ravello. He says, I think it was a comment, something in regards to Brooklyn Terry. He said, I think you're wrong. I'm sorry, I don't want to be rude. Maybe that's a U.S. reality. Personally, I come from Cuba. Some of us white people, we grew up together with black brothers. I know about African culture, not from a white supremacist point of view, not at all. Maybe in the U.S., but we in Cuba, we believe in Afro-Cuban religion. I'm white and I practice Yoruba religion. Listen, not all white people are exactly the same as not even all black brothers. Some of us, we were born white or black. We didn't choose that. Personally, I feel sad because I grew up in a neighborhood in Havana. I play yembe, good as hell, and I do agree there is racism issue worldwide, but I guess it's wrong to label people.
So labels. First of all, white supremacy isn't every single white person. White supremacy is a system. Yeah. It's a system that he definitely has a lot of privilege in if he left Cuba. I've always said, when I'm teaching about dance and Afro-Caribbean, African-American dance, that Cuba, because of the political situation, has the richest post-slavery African culture outside of the continent in the world. So he has to realize how rare his situation as a white person to be part of that and to be witness to that.
You ain't white. You ain't white, fam. You Cuban. You Afro-Cuban, bro.
You know, he like people in Cuba get to witness on a different level without the gaze, for the most part, of white supremacy, because Cuba has had its middle finger up to the West forever. Yeah. So he has the gaze. He has a whole different gaze. Right. So his situation is, of course, that's his reality. But on the outside of Cuba, of course, it's just different, and he has to understand that it's just different.
He agrees. He says on his Facebook. Mega, go ahead, man.
Especially when I get around black folks and we rocking, I love to point out some shit and be like, yo, white folks this, white folks that. Right. But I'm very aware that race is a social construct and it's a descriptive word to use to describe things. And a lot of times when I'm talking about white people, I'm talking about something different than a definition that you would pull out of the dictionary. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not so into essentialism as an organizing force. And I just, I'm not talking about that Cuban man whatsoever. When I say is white folks, I'm talking specifically about Bill Clinton in this situation. It's fun for me, but I might be called a class reductionist because how anti-essentialist I am at times, and it's something that I forget when we're having these conversations together, because I see all black faces and I feel like I could just rock with that. I would never really publicly denounce Barack Obama with white eyes watching or non-black eyes watching, because I feel as that could be weaponized against us. But I've got a lot of critical things to say about Barack Obama too. And it's weird to be in this space because all I see is black faces. And I love when we're around to just be like, yo, white people be tripping, right? So white people crazy. I sometimes forget. I very much do.
So Terry, how was it yesterday? Can I ask? Or Sunday?
Wait. Before I get into Sunday, Maurice said, "Can we talk about whiteness as a mindset, not as a skin tone?"
Maurice, is your mic working?
No, I guess not.
He types it.
Okay.
Yeah, second.
Go, Kristen. Did you have something to say? You want to speak?
Yeah, about the whiteness as a mindset thing. And this might be going kind of far, like in terms of just perspective, but I've never met another race or group of people that feels so entitled except for white people. And like, I only say that because my background here in the US, I went to 2 majority black schools, and then I went to 2 majority white schools. So growing up with that experience, I compared those 2 experiences. So I went to a majority black preschool, then I went to a majority white elementary school, then a majority black middle school, and then a majority white high school. Wow. So I pretty much had like an identity disorder, but it was funny because like in high school, they would always, instead of asking questions about things they didn't understand, for example, like I had worn my hair natural one day, and they were like, "Oh man, like your hair smells so fresh," and I was like, "That's great. I haven't washed it for like a week, so that's wonderful." And they just looked at me like, that's really dirty. Like you need to wash your hair." And it took me like so much of my inner being to just like not snap. I was like, what do you mean that's dirty? Like you just said it smelled fresh, so how can it be dirty? And they do that constantly, like anywhere you go. Like in Japan, I went to one of my friend's bars that he owns. I don't know if you guys have heard of Game Station.
No, Game Station.
Yeah, it's not that important. It's a vintage.
The arcade?
Yeah. It's like a vintage video game bar in Shinsaibashi. But there was like some young 21-year-old like white military brat there playing an Xbox game with me. And like we were just sitting and we were just making small talk about our experiences in Japan, of course. And all of a sudden, out of the blue, he's just like, yeah, I've never dated like a Black person before, but you know, I just don't think it would go well. And I'm just sitting there like, bro, like I didn't ask for your goddamn opinion about your dating preferenhes.
You should have said, and with that attitude, you're probably right.
But yo,
right?
No, we don't want you, fam. We don't want you.
Go ahead, Paul. What up?
Man, I was just like, you can't. I'm sorry. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No,
sorry.
Keep going. That's good. Keep going, Kristen.
I'm just saying, like, you have the audacity to speak your opinion as if you think it's so right and correct without even asking questions or trying to understand a different perspective. So from that viewpoint, yes, white supremacy is a full mindset. You feel like you're entitled to say whatever you want, and you feel like whatever you say is right, and that people should listen to you, not vice versa.
Ethnocentricity.
Go ahead, Paul.
Okay, so Maurice was talking in the comment. I'm just helping out. So about Florida and about Cubans moving to Florida. So when I was in California, I taught this book called 90 Miles to Havana. And so basically, you got I feel you, family. So what it talks about is that there was an economic situation, and that's one of the reasons why Castro was able to come in. And then there was this whole generation that was basically via propaganda, like they were dropping pamphlets on Cuba and they were doing all these things, getting them to move out of Cuba to the United States. And so some of that mindset, and that's what I think jumping off what Kristen is saying, that being white is a mindset, right? So when I'm in Cleveland, for example, we have Slovenians, we have Irish. They're not white. And they will tell you I'm Irish, and they know their history. I mean, they recognize that they have privilege being white because of the whole history of that and how they kind of embrace whiteness and started oppressing Black people and Italians and stuff like that. Like, they Italian. They will. So I think, but they're still aware. Like, I think people who have completely abandoned their cultures, and those is the white people I'm talking about. Is those people who are like, I'm white, we number one, it's America, we don't care about the Native Americans, we don't care about slavery, all that. Those people have traveled across the world and they have promoted an agenda of erasing culture, their own culture, and their culture has become white supremacy. And that is at the oppression of brown people and Black people. But yeah, Maurice, that book, 90 Miles to Havana, it's dope. So if you guys get a chance to check it out. So when that guy talks about being Cuban and what he's learned, of course, because that's under Castro. I mean, they know Asada. Who saved? I mean, right. I mean, fam, we understand.
We got you.
So, Bernie, go ahead.
Yeah, I agree with you all, but I think also too, not to forget our like white liberals who think that they are allies, or woke, as we were saying, woke, but still in some form of way uphold white supremacy and don't realize it. Like white supremacy, like when we think about racism or racist people, we tend to go for those who are overtly being like, you nigger, I don't like you, but then there are also allies who also have racist ideas or racist actions or do racist actions per se, or like still uphold white supremacy, even if they're trying to allow a space for people of color to be people of color or be an ally. Like I remember this one example of a person who would be like a white individual who's like a liberal could be walking down the street and fighting for Black rights and all that stuff, but then when they're going home, they will be the same ones to clench their purse if a Black man were to walk by. Or if they see if they're trying to fight for Black lives, but they're fighting for police brutalities, but they are quiet for education equality or equity, or they're quiet for issues on how gentrification is affecting Black individuals. Like they pick and choose which kind of issues that they want to align themselves with because other issues attack their livelihood. And so to me, when I think of white supremacy, I agree that it's definitely a system, but I also think that it infiltrates a lot of different white people and not the overtly racist individuals. And I think we need to be cognizant of that, because when a lot of white people are like, oh, I'm not that kind of white person, I'm not the one who's overtly being racist, they forget that they may have racist problems or racist ideas within themselves. And then they kind of just like jump out of the box and be like, because I'm not the one yelling nigger, I'm actually the one being friends with you. I ain't the racist I'm not the problem. I'm not racist. And I think that's really faulty, because there's a lot of white liberals who read, but they don't get it. They don't understand. They're not really with us. They just want to look like they're performing.
Right.
Performing. That's not. They're performing. So I just wanted to highlight that as well.
I'm gonna get to Mega. I just real quick on your point, Bernie, is I feel like in some ways that is more insidious than someone being an out white supremacist. You know what I'm saying? Go ahead, Megan.
I mean, I was gonna say, Bernie, bars. I'm consistently critical of the neoliberal, not just the white folks, but the neoliberals. They're a tremendous problem, and it's a deep-seated ideology that they don't even understand. You take that situation with Amy Cooper in Central Park. Amy Cooper is a Hillary Clinton voting, well-to-do white person who would pass all the implicit bias testing, training, and all the bullshit that we would want to use to say that this is a good white person. But there is a deep-seated ideology at play there that she doesn't even realize she's contributing to. And at times of stress, or at times where she needs to decide whether or not she's going to vote for her interest or the other, somebody else's interest, she's generally going to side with that deep-seated ideology. That's why when she start panicking, the first thing she do is fall right back into that race card about, oh my God, I'm a white woman, there's a Black man here who's not listening to me. She would pass the implicit bias testing, man. The neoliberal is the problem, man. The professional managerial class is the problem, man. It's those people too. I'd rather have my race in my face.
Before I get to Paul, I know we're in the middle of it, but I want to make sure I asked Terry, as far as, Sunday you had a party, and we're gonna get back to the Paul, but just before I forget, I want to ask you about how have you been maneuvering through this, man?
Man, listen. Okay.
Go ahead.
Man, listen. So let's just say shit has been hoard. Shit has been really hoard. With the parties, with doing Speakeasy was never like a financial venture with me. It was more of a cultural venture with me. So that was cool. So the party the other day, we had like a little back and forth with the club. The club finally said that they really want us to do it. We ended up doing it, which was planned, but then felt like last minute at the same time. We had a bunch of people come out, and the vibe was nice. It was interesting to have a bunch of people back in the space, and it was nice because I could see who our core was, like, because only the core people came out, the core people that have been supporting Speakeasy for the past 6 years now. So it was really, really good to see that. But as an artist, this corona shit got its foot all up my ass, right? I've never taught English in Japan. So I'm not an English teacher. I can barely speak English. I'm a 70s, 80s, 90s New Yorker. We don't speak English well. So 80% of my income has been from traveling around the world and teaching. And Corona came and erased all of that. So from one day, me landing in Tokyo from Melbourne, to the following day, about to get locked down in Tokyo, literally my career was wiped. 25 plus years just gone and, trying to find who I am. And someone said, well, it's good that you're keeping yourself in everyone's view by doing these panel discussions. And I'm not going to mention that person's name, but I was a bit insulted by that because I don't do this for that. I don't do my things for that. I do this for my folks. I do this because I have to stand in solidarity with my people at home. This is not about my ego. I do my best for my ego to the side when I do this. And this is why I haven't been on the panel for my things. I'm just simply the dude asking the question. So yeah, a lot of people still don't quite get that. They see this as me doing an ego move or a move to stay in the light. But yeah, things have been interesting to say the least. Let's just say that things have been interesting.
Okay. Paul, sorry, you mean
No. You want to pivot? We can pivot. We can go to the next thing.
Go ahead, Scotty.
Does anybody have any other questions for Terry?
Oh, I got a question. Oh, we can ask Terry questions?
Yeah. Go ahead.
You know the elephant in the room, T.
What's up, man? Are we about to talk about Awich?
You know, I want to talk about that.
Wow. So, go ahead.
For those out there who don't know, who are watching on Facebook, I had Awich on my last panel discussion. For my people who are non-Japanese or don't live in Japan and don't know about the Japanese rap scene, she is a Japanese rapper who is from Okinawa, who uses the word nigger in her song quite a bit. Yeah, you see, Bernadette got that face, Chrissy got that face, Megan got that tight face, everybody got the face, right? So, and she got a lot of flack, and even people were coming at me sideways because I put her on my panel. I had to let people know you don't just have to talk to people that you agree with. You should talk to people that you disagree with in order to get somewhere, So, also on the panel was my boy, Sabela Grimes, who is a professor at USC, and my homie, Nubian Nene, who is an amazing dancer and probably one of the most well-known whackers and hip-hop dancers in the world right now. So Awich gave her side of why she says it, and her side was, to put it simply, she got a pass, and none of us on this panel can sit here in front like we don't know what a pass is. That is our thing. We folks be giving passes, which is not good. She got a pass, pretty much, yeah? So she felt like because she got a pass, that it was okay. Her ex-husband was a 5%er.
That's what's crazy to me.
Yeah, but she got a pass. So we all have to stop fronting about that too. And she's a very good person. She's not a bad person. She came and she did what a lot of these male MCs out here who use the word flagrantly didn't do. And she sat in that chair and she took it. And she listened to everyone's comments. She took it. And a lot of these male MCs out here in Japan that act like they so hoard, they didn't even approach. So she manned up and she sat in a chair and she took it. My Nene actually really went in on the word and not using the word. And it was good that she heard this from a black woman, that Awich heard this from a black woman, because if it was coming from men, as a woman, I'm pretty sure women can be like, oh, it's just another man telling me what to do, right? I'm not a woman, but I'm pretty sure they can be seen at that. And then Sabela said something to her. He said, yeah, the problem with that is that no matter how close you are, you think you are to blackness. If you're not black, there's always the option of, once you're not in love with blackness anymore, to weaponize that word. We don't have that option. That option is not on the table for us. So later I spoke to her about that situation, and she never thought about it because she doesn't live in the world we're from. She never thought about the fact that it's possible to weaponize that word, and there's no argument to say that, oh no I can't, or no I wouldn't, or there's no argument to that. So she said that entirely changed her view about everything, and she doesn't think she'll do it again. And that's the thing about dialogue instead of monologue.
All right.
A lot of us, we like to talk at, but not talk with.
Person.
Yeah.
Maurice, go ahead. Your mic working? Go ahead, Maurice. No? French? What you saying?
French Montana, womaned up. Huh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He said, go ahead, you got it, Terry?
I can't hear him still.
Yeah, can't hear you, bro.
He's talking about French Montana, womaned up.
She womaned up, yeah.
Can you talk about blackness being exclusive and inclusive simultaneously? Terry.
Yeah, me? Yeah. So it's inclusive because you go around the world, everybody's singing black music, everybody's doing black dances, everybody is doing all of our cultural arts from an activity, like I said, and again, from an activity point of view. But it's exclusive because we're the only one that goes through the pain, right? That shit is exclusive to us. That shit is exclusive. I've heard many white singers try to do James Brown's scream, but it only sounds good when James does it. You hear that and you feel that pain when he screams, when he does a scream. So that shit, even though it's inclusive, everyone can scream. Nobody's screaming like James, and that's exactly what that is. It's everyone's invited to the party, but only us, we get to the VIP. And that VIP is the pain. Everybody's invited to the party. And think about how different the world would be if we didn't invite everybody to the party. It would be a bunch of people standing still in silence. So, and we gotta keep ourselves happy by inviting them. But we don't want to be in that exclusive pain club. I'm good. I'm good. I need a break from it, right? I want to go down on the dance floor with everybody else. Get out of the VIP. I hope that was clear. Tracy.
You're muted, bro. You're muted. Tracy, mute. Unmute.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Sorry.
Man, I'm having these conversations about the N-word and the usage with Japanese rappers. I had notable rapper Kojo on my podcast. He's one of the most popular cats out here, and he says it too. And I wasn't confrontational about it, but I did ask him about that, and he gave me the same reason. He usually wouldn't say it around just random black people, but his ex-wife is a Pawnee B. Fly of the Polyrhythmatics, quite notable, pro-black, conscious type of individual, well-known in New York. And they were just like, go ahead. And, for me, being that my mother is Filipino, and sometimes people don't even think that I'm black. They think I'm Samoan or some other shit. I grapple with the idea of using the word myself. And I think that even if I, as a half black person, can kind of look at the word and realize the differences, I think that those people should too. And I don't feel that black is such a monolith that that all black people have to be against other races using the word. We can spot intention, and Ja Rule is fine with people saying it when they rap in his songs. He don't feel good about it when it got a hard ER on it. And that's his position, I don't think that these people should want to say it, but I don't know, man. It's a strange thing. I personally was asked to help do an interview with Awich, and knowing what I know about her usage of the word, I feel like I couldn't have a conversation with her without asking that question. And being that I'm a dude, I felt that it's a bit too confrontational for me as a man to approach her with that. And so I would like to just say that it's dope, Terry, that you provided an opportunity to have a conversation with her and for her to identify with the usage of the word from a Black woman's perspective. So that's dope, man. I mean, I know we're about to talk about parenting and things of that nature, and I know some of us have mixed race kids, and so that word is something that we're going to have to educate our kids about here, and probably our spouses too. So I don't know, man. I'm glad if she's changed her position on it, Terry. Man, that's great. I really appreciate you facilitating that, because I gotta say I cringe every time I see her say it.
Yeah. Paul, go ahead, man.
And one final point. How you gonna be God body and give somebody a pass like that? I feel like you're not doing the knowledge, God.
I'll speak to this.
Hold on. Go ahead, Paul. Go ahead.
All right, so I'm gonna keep it real. I have definitely given passes.
Really?
Yeah, for sure. Because I say nigga all the time.
Right.
I'm from Martin Luther King Drive. I'm East 93rd, East Side, right? So, if you went to a school where it's 99% Black and you might be the only Asian person in there, you probably gonna say nigga, because we all say nigga. Mm-hmm. And if you out there, doing them illegals with us and running from the police and all this other stuff, it's gonna get into your lexicon. So, and that leads to Maurice's point. We are not a monolith, and that word means something different to 5%ers. It means something different to us. You know what I'm saying? In the belly of the beast. So yes, we should not do it, obviously. But I got a homegirl who's from Hong Kong. She got dropped in the middle of the hood, and she had to make a choice: hang with the white people, hang with the Black people. She hung with the Black people. All her friends said nigga. Her first, probably one of her first English words was nigga, because that's what she learned. And so we don't, yes, we're wrong for doing that, and we should stop doing. Like my daughter, she don't say nigga. She be telling daddy, don't say that. That's a bad word. We don't do that. She 10 years old. She don't even like to hear. I'm trying to play Kendrick Lamar. She be like, you better get the clean version. You know what I'm saying? She like, don't play that in the car. Don't play it in the house, because she knows what it means. And I think that's where the Awich thing, because I'm a fan of Awich. Right. I like Awich. Yeah, we mess with kids, but I love Awich. And I really like the documentary she put out about, I'm gonna get into her life story about her kid and stuff. That's how I connected with her. But when she started saying it, I thought it was fraudulent, because it wasn't real in the context of what she was doing. So like, if you come to me and we having a conversation, then like you can tell when it's used for marketing. Mm-hmm. And you can tell when it's part of your lexicon. And so my only issue with that is like, don't use us for marketing. You already dope. You already blowing up, and Kojo, I'm sure Alpina wouldn't, I know her, I'm sure she wouldn't like, you was in New York with us. Yeah, it's different, fam. Right. Yeah. You're not in New York with us, so
Kojo's conscious about it. I appreciate,
Yeah, so I mean, I'm not gonna say I never, did that, because I have, and I'd be wrong to.
But but the context is very important to note, though. You know what I'm saying?
Well, when you give a pass, they know the they act like they don't know what it is, man.
I personally don't give passes.
I don't anymore, but I did when I was young, like youth. I was a youth.
Yeah, in the situation I grew up in, there was no white people in my neighborhood. Like I had to go to Manhattan to see white folks, or I had to go to Bensonhurst to see white folks, and those white folks in Bensonhurst hated a nigga. So I was using the real one. So I didn't give a pass, not just because I didn't want to be offended. With my Asian and white friends, I didn't give them a pass because I didn't want them to get fucked up and slip around and say it around me, and I'm around like a bunch of decepts, or I'm around a bunch of lowlifes, or they just with the wrong folks, and they're gonna get harmed. So I said it. I didn't give passes to say their asses.
But Terry, in New York, everybody say nigga. Don't act like that, fam.
White people do not say Puerto Rican folks say
kids. People be kids. White dudes are saying nigga.
White folks. I don't know what white people you know from New York.
Kristen, go ahead. Sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, Kristen. Sorry.
Oh no, it's not a big deal. Like I actually lowered my hand because I was like, they seem to be real deep in this, so you guys can keep talking.
Come on.
I feel bad now.
Go, Kristen. Sorry.
No, it's fine. Like I was just gonna say, like in regards to inclusivity and exclusivity, like in the Black community, I feel like before we even deal with like outsiders, like, you know, using the N-word and stuff like pertaining to our culture, them using our culture, we have to look at ourselves as well, because we already have these divisive factions of, let's say, things like dark skin versus light skin, or team natural versus like weave and, I don't know, relaxed hair, or like people from the hood versus people from the burbs. And it's just like, at the same time, I understand that being Black is not a monolith. And that's a good thing, because everybody's experiences should be understood and should be talked about. And we should really like understand like how other people think. Now, I'm not saying that I agree with Candace Owens. I actually hate her. And like the fact that she went and did a discussion with T.I. on that show, I forgot, was it BET or something like that?
Can't remember, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, like the fact that they gave her a platform, I think was nice, just because it's not the fact that they had to agree with everything she said, but it's just the fact that they allowed somebody who was considered Black to actively talk about like an opposing viewpoint from the majority of Black people. And so I just wanted to say that I think it's good to include everyone in the discussion, regardless of your upbringing, if you're kind of mixed race, because mixed people also kind of have it hard too, because they don't feel like completely Black. They don't feel like completely whatever other race they're mixed with. So they're kind of like stuck in the middle. Like, can I even speak on this? Am I allowed to speak on this? Like, I'm Creole, so every time I'm with my girlfriends, who the majority of them are darker than me, they're like, fam, you don't know what you're talking about. I'm like, but I do though. Like, just because I'm like mixed, that doesn't mean that I can't have an opinion on Black matters. Like, you think because you have more African blood that you can like have more of a say in the discussion? That feels kind of wrong in a way.
Megan, hold up. I know, I see you, son. Let Bernie. Let me. Bernie, go ahead.
Let Bernie first.
No, I got you. The thing that I'm thinking about with nigga, because I don't like using the word, but I think also another issue that I see within my community is that we don't really know where the word comes from or what it really means, because people use it in different ways in different contexts. And I think this is where the passing comes in, because you have people who are like, well, nigga means brother, my friend. So why is that a racialized word? Why is that a negative word? If my Asian friend is a friend and they consider me a friend, they could say nigga to me. You know what I mean? Like that kind of like connotation behind it. A lot of people say like nigga came from the root word nigger. Others say it comes from like negus. Yeah, you know, like ancient Egypt. Like son, you know, all these. There's so many different theories on it that like we really don't know for the most part where this root word comes from, but we know how we use it in everyday dialogue. And so because of that, we allow certain groups of people to be able to use this word depending, as we were talking about, depending on the context. But the thing that I also find an issue too, that I think tackles a little, or goes alongside what Brooklyn was talking about, in the sense of like, you give somebody a pass, but I think that they think that by giving them a pass, they can use the word in every single context, which is not necessarily the case. Like if I give my friend, I will never do this, but if I give my white friend the pass to say nigga to me, that doesn't mean that she or they or him could say that to my brother, or go around and be like nigga, because my best friend allowed me to say the word. But I think once you get this pass, they kind of run with it, you know, on a track star, and they go like 10 miles with it, and then they say nigga all the way there, and it's just like that's not necessarily what it means. So I think there's two things I'm bringing points that I was grappling with as y'all were talking.
Yeah.
You know, it's also very generational. I think, you know, I know Bernie is much younger than me, and Terry is a little bit older than me, and same with Paulie. And you know, the word has taken on a different form than it was even when my parents were kids. My father was born in 1941, And
Jeez.
he never, ever, I never heard him use the N-word. In fact, he was very proper, and he didn't even curse. Now, my stepdad is much younger, born in the 60s, and he's from the deep South, Definiak, a little country town, Definiak, Florida. And he also never used the N-word. So just growing up, for me, using it in the context of hip hop and my community in California, we had different rules. The Mexican cast didn't say it. The white cast didn't say it. It was only black folks. Now I hear California got everybody saying it, and I think it has a lot to do with the popularity of hip hop culture. But at the same time, you look to the young community like Bernadette, and they're being awoken to a different interpretation of the word and its power, and more people are mindful, not woke and mindful now. So I think we'll see a variety of different opinions on this ever. And Maurice makes a good point in the chat where he says, where do we demarcate the line between personal and individual responsibility and duty to community? Now, when it comes to the N-word, I again, like Kristen said, like I'm Negro, Nigapino, whatever you want to call it. So I maybe shouldn't be the one leading this fight. I should err towards people that look like my father, or somebody else who has been victimized by the word. Because I mean, I have, but I won that battle, because it ain't never been said to me without me winning that battle. So I don't know, man. I have no idea.
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, so I wanted to say it, but he took I wanted to speak for Maurice. No, I don't even know what demarcate means, so y'all gonna have to drop some knowledge. Y'all over here Stephen A. Smithing it. What I would say is, like, as a youth, I grew up in the crack era. You feel me? I'm not gonna get into my history on that, but yes, knee deep. So it was different. Menace to Society, Boys in the Hood. I mean, the height of hip hop 90s. And I think that as a youth, without true knowledge of myself, we make mistakes, we do things. And I think that, but we have to do both. We have to have some individual responsibility, and think about the community. Because you go to Atlanta, that might not fly. You go to Brooklyn these days, or before then. In California, because I live in California, and I can tell you that everybody say it. And it was a really hard thing for me to deal with, especially going there, like kind of end of my 20s, beginning of my 30s, where it was unacceptable, where we weren't giving out no more passes. Even my friends who had passes weren't even doing it no more, or if you want to call it that. So like we had grown up. And so even as a grown up with my kid, we, like I said, she has no tolerance for that, especially here in Japan, because she's aware that it ain't that many black people. And daddy told me to punch him. So, and I feel like enough people ain't got punched in the face. Yeah. We can talk about that enough, because you used to get punched in the face when I was growing up. If you say something like that, I mean, I fought my own football team in a weight room when I was in college with 4 of my other homies, because we was the only black people in there, and that was unacceptable. And I fought some black people because they said it in the wrong way, and I felt offended by it. So, we grow. But as for kids, my daughter ain't on that. We don't do that. So,
hey guys, can I so at 12 o'clock I have another meeting, so I just wanted you guys to know that 12 I gotta bounce.
Okay, all right. Well, we're gonna wrap this up in a little bit, because we've been going for a while. But I think that was a good segue into talking about raising kids here in Japan.
Woo!
You want to start, Terry?
Woo! So raising kids here in Japan. Look, if I use my childhood as a marker of reference, it's fucking great, because I also grew up in the crack era, and I don't worry about my kids dying. Yeah. Well, I do worry. Me and my wife were worried about the microaggression things. Yeah. So we have a very unique situation. We own a dance studio. We built a dance studio in our house. Our house upstairs is a dance studio. I mean, upstairs is our home. Downstairs is a dance studio. All the kids that my kids go to school with well, not all of them, but a lot of them dance and they want to dance. So what they do is they come to Mao and Zion's house where Mao and Zion's mommy and daddy are famous dancers. So that puts them in this bubble of being the cool kid where they're from all the time through elementary and junior high school, which can be probably the most traumatic times in a kid's life who's mixed culture, mixed race here in Japan. So we have a very unique situation where we put them in the bubble. Now I'm worrying about the next step is when they leave the bubble. So me and my daughter, to be absolutely honest, she's 12 years old. She don't care about nothing. She just don't care. But me and my son, we sit down and we have conversations about race. And of course, because the George Floyd thing was so big, he saw the video of George Floyd. And he said he watched that video and he wanted to cry. And I had to explain a lot of stuff to him because of that. So now his bubble is starting to pop a little bit, which, to be honest, it may be a good thing because it's preparing him for the world, you know? So I have a very unique situation where my kids and all my kids' friends, they come here and they live in a bubble, and their first experience of blackness and black people is me. And I hope I'm a pretty good role model. So yeah, while I will joke and play with them, I'm also kind of a disciplinarian and I'm not going to have the bullshit. And so they know both sides. Yes, I'm a good dancer, but I can also have a conversation with your mother and father on a totally different level. So yeah, my kids are actually, on the personal side, I do know and I do hear about the stuff and I do read all the stuff that goes on outside, but inside my bubble that we created, it doesn't happen. And if it did, somebody would get smacked. My oldest daughter, however, who grew up with her mom and her stepdad in Okayama, had serious problems. Her first day of junior high school, that her principal got mad because she had a perm. Then she was wearing cocoa butter, so they called her to the dean's office because she has to change her smell. Shit like that. So me knowing that, and she's 24 now, so me knowing that when she was growing up and hearing those stories, I knew that I had to take the steps to create a different world for my little ones. Now my oldest daughter lives in New York, and she's like, I'm never, ever, ever living in Japan again because Japan traumatized her. She punched this kid in the nose and broke his nose, Kobayashi-kun. Yeah, I'll never forget that dude.
I mean, you get a punch in the face, bro.
Yep. There's more punching in the face need to be done. I'm going to quote you on that one, Paul. More punching in the face need to be done. So, yeah,
don't hype me up like that, y'all. You know I got violent impulses and I'm trying to control my shit the best I can. Y'all talking out here, it makes me want to go outside.
Fight out here. People get punched in the face in Aichi. Japanese people be gangster over here, bro.
I feel like if I even defend myself out here, then I'm gonna get deported. I hear it's like $10,000 if you punch somebody in the face out here.
Wow.
I don't got that.
That definitely raising my daughter here, like when she was a baby, when she came into the world, there were so many things that I was not anticipating. I just was not even really thinking about, maybe there was some idealism having to do with it. I came here, I got married, and I'm starting to defend my wife, and I'm excited.
Yeah.
I'm not thinking that I'm bringing this child into this world that, people are looking at as like, well, didn't you think this or didn't you think that? Didn't you consider this? And that's your fault. I'm like, what? Like, how do you know what I mean? Well, if love is unconditional, I'm not thinking about, is it okay for me and my wife to procreate? You know what I'm saying? It's like, it's ridiculous. Go ahead, Mega. Go ahead. I see you guys' hand up.
I mean, it's a strange thing being out here and being, different. Like, not just in regards to the skin color or anything like that. But there's a whole can of worms that comes with just raising your kids out here. My daughter has recently become embarrassed to speak English because the kids make fun of her because she dropping bars. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And that's like a whole different thing. Like I can't, my daughter is very passable. She most people will see her and think she's some type of Asian, some type of, Japanese person. My wife is Okinawan and my daughter, is half of me. And the type of circumstances that I have to raise my daughter with out here is much different than most of y'all, I think, because she don't got the 9 ether hair. But informing her has its own set of difficulties. My daughter can't be an Awich. She can't be out there dropping the M-bomb. It's like, that's something I have to teach her about. But I feel she'll want to embrace that more because she's going to feel outside out here. And I'm really interested to hear what you guys have to say about the experience of raising, hyper visibly half black children out here. I'm teaching my daughter, how to seize the means of production and build guillotines just like every other good Marxist. But you know what I mean? She'll learn judo, but I'm interested to hear what you guys got to say about your experiences.
Go ahead, Paul.
Maurice said he got to leave soon. You want to go? I will go after Maurice.
Oh, go ahead, Maurice.
Can y'all hear me?
Whoa, yeah.
Hey.
All right. Well, I'm in Kawasaki, so I have 3 boys. They all look like me. 2 of them actually have a disability, so I always have to make sure that the oldest one I always call him the bodyguard, because for me, I think going back to my question about, or the hypothesis that for many Black people, when we're outside of a space that is safe, I think we have to be proactive. We have to almost be proactive to the point of aggression. It appears to be aggressive in asserting who we are. So I always tell my kids, don't let anybody forget who you are. You remind yourself of who you are before you step out of the house. But you got to remind, I was about to curse, you got to remind some fools of who you are, because you got me in you. You stand on the shoulders of giants. You got that blood, and the roots are there. And if you let anybody demean you, and you disrespect those people,
Maurice, man, you dropping bars with your mic, son. Man.
I know.
Go ahead, Paul. Go ahead.
So, because I actually had this conversation with Maya about standing on the shoulder of giants. And so my daughter is visibly Black. Like her hair, hips, she tall. She is, we have to, order. You can tell. Even her grandma, I had to tell her. I said, because her grandma look at her butt and she like want to smack her on the butt. I was like, don't let people smack you. I don't care who it is, right? Like your grandma is, she sees you and she knows that you are her grandchild, but it's a natural reaction to be like, wow, girl, you feel that. Like that's who you is, because you Black. And it goes back. Yes, my wife is Japanese. My daughter's, half Japanese or mixed, or whatever you want to call it, but she Black. And I would just say this: when she was in California, she was Black. When she was in Japan, she was Black. She's having the exact same experience being a private school kid in San Francisco, where it's not like 6% Black people that she has in Japan. So actually, San Francisco prepared her for Japan because people want to touch her hair. They want to take her pictures. We just ran across this lady at the march who's from England, Black lady. And she was like, oh, you have pretty eyelashes, and like really just objectifying her. Like, and I don't think she meant it because she got 2 daughters, but my daughter is visible. And so she's learned to, one, control her space and not be afraid who she is, So, and it's little things that we go through. But she can't hide. Even the mixed kids, there's mixed kids at her school, there's kids from other countries at her school, but she Black. That's it. And that's where we at. And I think it's harder because like my grandparents were mixed. So my grandma was mixed Native American. We think her mother was actually white, but they said Native American. And her grandfather was Black. And then my grandfather, his mother was French. And his father was Black. And so my grandfather actually had brothers and sisters who could pass. And so there was a lot of passing in my family for white. If people don't know what that is. So, but they were very black. They were black people. They never wavered. They lived in in the black neighborhoods. They were knee deep in it. Like they were black, but they didn't really look black, right? So I grew up with that, understanding that it's a range from lightest to dark. We all black, right?
The thing that shocked me was what I think about Paul is your daughter was prepared to live here. Or your daughter, her blackness was normalized before she came.
Well, she experienced racism in America, so she was.
Right. But there's I think it's definitely a different.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? There's different connotations there. But definitely for me, it was being a first-time father and having my child, who when she was young, she looked like my wife, who was Japanese. But at the same time, it's obvious that she was a multiracial child. And, the people's initial reaction as far as kids was either to be violent in some way or to treat her like some kind of monster. And I've never seen that before because, when you think about slavery and you think about kids, black kids as slaves growing up on a plantation who were playing with their master's kids, you know what I'm saying? Like there was no, like it was just two kids playing, which to me was very striking because, here it's like they, at a very early age, they identify, you know what I mean? They're like, you're different. And therefore I have to exclude you. And I never understood like the, how you could do that so early on.
Yeah.
At an early age. You know what I mean?
I like talking about objectification. Sorry, I live in a country where there's still Boso's Oka. Talking about objectification, right? What I figured I had to do, what I enforced was my children's physical beauty first. Like that, I had, especially with my daughter, because I know that's usually the first place the attack comes from. So if in any war, if you're gonna fortify the place that that they're coming for, right? So I enforced my youngest daughter's physical beauty first. Like, you are amazingly beautiful. Your hair is beautiful. Your eyes are beautiful. Your skin, you have perfect skin, and like really, really fortified. That's try to build that part of her up. So when she went into the world, those things that they would attack were already so fortified and so strong that they had less of an effect. And fortunately, like I said, to this day, we haven't had that issue. However, I know that issue's coming. My kids are like the cool kids in school, which is a whole different fucking can of worms. Like, everybody knows who they are. Everybody in the neighborhood knows who they are. And with my son boxes. My son boxes. He breaks, he dances, does tap. So physically, I got him up there. He is agile. He knows how to move, So it's, I think as parents here, we have to fortify the thing that we know that they're coming for. Yeah. You know that they're coming for. You know that they're coming for that. You know they're going to say something negative about how your child looks. Fortify that. At the same time, of course, fortify the mental and emotional thing, but just have them ready for what's coming. Because as children, I think they're going to go to what's the most basic, the thing that they can see the most basic. And if somebody can say, wow, why's your skin that color? And your daughter replies, because I'm beautiful, then it kind of negates everything. You know what I mean?
Go ahead, Paul. I'm sorry.
So I think, like, it's interesting because you guys are growing up, your kids are growing up in the city. My daughter's in, like, basically the suburbs.
Oh, me too, bro.
And you're in the burbs. So, like, and then, like, Aichi, there's lots of brown Japanese people, right? Like, they, like, and I mean this, like, by saying, because I sent this to Kristen and Bernadette, or I sent it in the chat, where you see actually in the books brown Japanese people. And so the image is a little different. So, like, where Terry is telling them that, she's beautiful. Everyone think my daughter's beautiful. Like, like, they try to take pictures when she was a baby and all this other stuff. And so, like, I had to build on that, like saying, you being black is beautiful, but you are more than beautiful. You know what I'm saying? Like, so she's like, I love math. Like when people are like, oh, you're so cute. She's like, I love math. And I like the planets. So she has like, so I think it's both. And then, yeah, it's interesting because like I said, like there are girls when she was maybe like first grade, there was a girl who was Japanese and whatever, because of her, she was darker than Maya. And she was like, Daddy, she Japanese. And I was like, yeah, I mean, there's kids. I mean, Japanese is a range, everybody ain't like, I mean, she's like, and that was different for her to have to experience that. So we talk about skin tone a lot.
My son's elementary school, there are maybe 4 fully black African children who were born and being raised in Japan.
Oh, wow.
There's like 2 or 3 half Filipino kids that are born and being raised in Japan. There are maybe 3 white kids from Canada who were born from Canadian parents and being raised in Japan. So I think the fortunate thing about what we're going through right now as parents, which the last generation of foreign parents in Japan didn't go through, is we're living through this extreme change of what Japanese identity is. Our generation is starting, like the generations growing up here, is starting to change what the identity of Japan is. And that's because, ain't nobody had no babies here, and because they need people to work, a whole combination of things. But the truth is, those African kids that are growing up here, just like if they were growing up in America, they'd be American, right? These kids are Japanese. They speak the language. They hang out in Japanese culture every single day. So these kids, maybe their home culture is Nigeria or whatever part of Africa their parents are from, but everything outside of their home culture is Japanese. So these kids are Japanese, but they are darker than me,
right?
And I think what's happening now is a very, very healthy step for Japan to begin to open their eyes to the rest of the world as like, oh shit, we are not a monolith. We didn't pop up out of the ground like daikon. We're here together with everyone else. So I think that maybe a generation or 2 ago of parents, this conversation would have been a much more difficult conversation than we're having, So,
hey, Maurice.
I think he bounced.
Oh, he's out?
Yeah.
I'm out.
Yeah,
Can you hear me? I gotta go.
All right, man.
Thank you
now
all.
we can hear you. Peace,
Thank
brother.
you.
Brother.
Yeah, you can hear me now.
Yeah.
Yeah, perfect.
Terry, let's
We're so
connect,
great.
man. I'm like right down the street. I'm gonna send my kids to your dance studio, man.
Yeah, man, come through, man.
Oh, dope.
Yeah, man.
Sheesh.
Nigga, Paul, Bernie,
Nigga.
Tracy, thank you all so much.
He said mega, but it sounded like nigga.
Oh, he said mega. I
word? Hey, do I got a pass?
said my name.
I was thinking the same
Let me
thing.
know if I got a pass.
Nigga Pino.
Nigga Pino.
You know how it is.
That sound like some really good wine. Now, can I get a nigga Pino?
It's that nigga Pino. Oh, that's from
That sounds like some prison
1983.
wine.
The prison wine.
Yummy. All right, y'all.
All right, so go ahead, Megan.
Oh, the conversation's interesting because not only are the half black kids out here experience adversity and generally just not being understood by their peers and people around them, but I'm curious how the 3 of you have worked with their mothers to dispel some issues about blackness or to help them to better raise a half black child, because I know, my wife is not familiar with black culture at all. When I sent her to the States to stay with my all black family, it was a bit, shocking for her. But, like, my wife is not allowed to say the N-word, even if it's a joke. You know what I mean? So stuff like that. I'm sorry. I'm curious about your experiences with that. The 3 of you guys.
Go ahead, Terry. I see you, Paul, but just as a guest, go first. Go ahead.
Me, well, so My wife grew up in a suburbs, kind of a pampered situation, even though she doesn't quite know that she's lived a pampered situation. She's one of those princesses that doesn't know that she's a princess, right?
Yeah.
So, taking deep breaths here.
Go ahead.
She needs a lot of work when it comes to this stuff, and we're working on things. It's nothing that I can blame her for because she has, she dances. She does contemporary jazz dance, so she doesn't even live in the black experience in her dance, to be honest. Um, so I prepare her for a lot of things, and she is really the constructor of the bubble around our children because she knew that that was going to be strange. So, but I told her, like, you still haven't had the experience yet. And I was like, so what do you do if you're walking down the street? We go to visit my mother, we're walking up Flatbush Avenue, the police grab Zion, and Zion's like 15, slam him against the gate, throw him to the ground. Yeah? And she was just like, I jump in the middle, and I said, that's my son. And I said, well, don't jump in the middle because you're going to get hurt, right? And we have to go through all of these kind of lessons that she feels that are shocking. And it's just our reality, So I'm trying to get her more educated on what our reality is and the things that she's never going to have to live with. And trying to show her that her point of view is a point of view, but not the point of view. Because that's an issue that a lot of Japanese people have. I feel that, the Japanese point of view is the point of view as opposed to just a point of view. I deal, and then like Mega said, I didn't leave her with my family for any long period of time, but I bring her around my family at home, and she's just not prepared for the amount of blackness. That's
so like, y'all just make fun of each other all day, every day.
Yep, that's what we do. So we went to visit my sister who had moved to Atlanta, and this is like around Christmas time. My sister and my mom are in the kitchen cooking, and Japanese moms, they want to go and help, right? But in a black kitchen, a Japanese mom ain't got no idea what she's doing. Yeah. So her mom is persistent, like, going in the kitchen to help. And my sister says, no, go ahead, go sit down, it's okay. So in Japan, yes means no. Yes means maybe means no, and no one ever says no. But for us, yes is yes, no is no, right? So her mom, being Japanese, is persistently going to the kitchen, right? And my sister says, well, no, don't worry, go sit down. Says twice, no, go ahead, go in the living room and, have a seat. We got this. Third time, my sister's like, you need to go and sit down to get out the way.
Right.
So they're learning lessons like that. The same, kind of social manner lessons we learned when we moved here. That's what my wife is learning. But about raising the kids, because of the bubble, I'm preparing her for them leaving the bubble as well.
Okay.
Like, I'm like, yo, look what they wrote about Osaka Naomi and all of that stuff. Like, look at, you know that this is coming. It's not just sitting there in the distance. This is coming closer and closer and closer to happening because this is a part of Black reality. There isn't a if we have to face it. There's a when we have to face it. So I'm letting her know that it's not an if, it's a when, and it's coming. So prepare your heart, prepare your mind and your emotions, because we're gonna go through this, So that's how I'm dealing with that.
Well, thank you, Terry. What's up, Paul? Go ahead.
Yeah, I think it's unique in that my wife lived in the United States for 20 years. We met when she was in college. She's lived in some places exclusively around Black people. And, she knows my whole family. My mother's been here a few times. My brother, the family is close. Her mother has been to the States. Her brother has been to the States. And then her, because she is from a temple family. So her brother's a monk, her father's a monk, grandfather's a monk. So she has experienced her own discrimination in Japan, as well as when she went to Ohio, everybody Chinese. And so for a Japanese person to be called Chinese, it's a whole totally different experience. So not only is she dealing with an experience as an Asian person, but then to be grouped and trying to navigate coming from such a strong identity of being Japanese to now being Asian and some being called the China Dow and all this, so her experience is very different. And so we've been she's let me kind of take the lead on a lot of things. So like my house is very visibly Black, books. My wife is very much like, it's impossible not for my daughter to be Japanese, but it's kind of even, you know what I mean? Like, it's like we went to the march and and we do all these things just as a family. And so my wife actually tells my daughter, "So you're Black, girl. You're supposed to do this." And but also my wife lived in the States, so she cooked greens, she cooked cornbread. Egg on ham. We eat like that too, like culturally. And we watch movies. Like she's showing my daughter about Harriet Tubman. We had this whole conversation. It'd be Black History Month in my house every month, But yeah, my wife is she knows what it is to experience racism in the United States. She knows what it is to experience discrimination in Japan. So it's unique in that way. So like, I love my wife. She does.
Yeah, I share some parallels with Paul. My wife's, we met in college. She went to grad school, majored in intercultural relations. So she lived, well, she also lived in the States when she was a child, like from, I think, part of elementary school through middle school. So when she came back to Japan, it was like kids were like, "You're not Japanese enough." And I was like, "What?" You know what I mean? So that stayed with her for the rest of her school career. But in the States, after she graduated grad school, I think she was helping with like the Lost Boys, like they was coming from the Sudan. And she was helping them, get benefits and get situated, and going to parts of Boston and teaching in learning centers for kids that are underprivileged. And so we talk about a lot of that stuff. And, I actually, when we talk sometimes, I think earlier, I forgot what it was, but, basically when we talk about racism and talking to you guys, I think about my wife, because she'd be like, white people need to fix this. This is not a Black problem. This is a white people's problem that they have to deal with. In terms of when we see George Floyd, we see ourselves. When they see the Derek Chauvin, the cop that killed George Floyd, they see a cop that killed George Floyd. They don't see themselves. And it's like all of these problems that we're talking about are issues that white people really need to solve because they're the ones that created them. So. But as far as going down, dealing with my family, it's a little bit of a culture shock in some degrees, but not necessarily. But yeah, there are some things, but mostly, the kitchen thing. She goes in the kitchen. Yeah, so it's whatever.
Yeah, collard greens, man. I need collard greens. I gotta have it.
Yeah. Definitely speaking on Terry.
Paul, man, make me a plate.
As far as fortifying, her hair and her beauty, that's something I definitely have to give out to my wife, who really did that. Was more forward thinking than I was, because I got three brothers. I got two brothers. I got two older brothers. I don't know anything about girls. You know what I mean?
Hair is serious. Hair serious.
Yeah. So I think if anybody has anything else, anybody wants to share, give an update about what's going on in your life, whatever, before we close out.
I have some questions for Bernie. Bernie, you gonna answer those questions?
Because I have no kids, so I was kind of like, I'm just sitting here listening to you all about your experiences. But Paul essentially asked me, what do you think will be the challenges that I will when I come to Japan and I teach? Was how do I interact with Black kids who have grown up in Japan and or mixed kids in Japan? And I actually haven't thought about that, because I essentially thought more about how everybody will react to me being a Black woman from America, and how like people would treat me as like the ambassador. So like when we were talking about hip hop culture, I had like this inkling based on my research and conversations with other individuals in Japan that people are going to look towards me to have all the answers of like Black culture, as if like because I'm Black, I know everything. And so I think along that, thinking about how would I relate to individuals who are not necessarily like they're Black, but they don't come from the same culture that I came from. And I think the thing that I want to be careful of is not imposing a certain, not even a lifestyle, but a mindset about Blackness, because I will not understand what it's like to be a mixed individual or a Black individual growing up in a completely different society. So the things that I know or understand, it's going to be, I think that's going to be a little hard to navigate, especially if they're kids and they're speaking in a language that I barely understand myself. So I think that's going to be like a major challenge, that if I do have Black kids, I know for me, I'm going to be like gravitating to them more, because I'll be like, okay, another Black kid, hey girl, or hey son, like what's up? Obviously not in those like kind of vocabulary, but I will try to gravitate towards them. But I think the initial problem that I may come against is we're going to be clashing two different cultures. So it's like thinking about how do I navigate that in a way that it's palatable, because I'm most likely going to be given children. So thinking about how it's palatable to little kids who are running around. So I'm thinking a lot about games, like Black oriented games. I don't know what those are, but whatever, games that we've played when we were young, that was like, that built the Black community, or like activities that we did that made us in a way very connected. Because what I was thinking is making sure that, yes, I'm a Black individual, but I'm not trying to be about ambassador, but I want to introduce a different kind of Black culture. Like we ain't always hip hop, right? We are all these other things, and making sure that I center Black women in that.
Go ahead, Paul. Mega, sorry.
I think that like what you said in your approach to coming out here is one that we should all be mindful of too when we're discussing Black politics and Black positions. While we may share similar systemic and structural things that act against us in American society and Japanese society, man, it's a rich and diverse group of people. And things like not acting Black or trying to reinforce, certain tropes of masculinity, those are really outdated. And I would say that, in my 6 years of teaching out here, I've had very few kids that were half Black. I've had, interactions with kids where they obviously learned something negative from their parents. I've been called Kokujin by a 3-year-old. He didn't come to that by himself. He got taught that by his family. So you will face that type of adversity, but man, it's just so it's really rewarding to see these kids look at you as a person and stop looking at you as an outsider. And given enough time, the kids pick up on it. They know that there's not really a difference that should be punctuated as a negative. And so I think you have a lot of fun, Bernie. It's going to be dope. But definitely prepare for them to be like, yo, like, does your skin color change? Like, why are you so dark? Like, why is your hair like this? It comes with the territory, and it's dope to teach these kids. I'm not making as much money as I was back in the States doing my profession, but man, I love teaching these kids. It's so rewarding.
Man, later for these kids. Man. That was a joke. Don't come after me.
I think is it cool we ended there? I think that was dope, man.
That was dope.
I had a great time. Terry, thank you for your time, brother. And thank you everyone else for giving me, joining and just being dope to just talk with the crew, man. I love building with y'all, man. So
likewise.
Yo, Bernie, when you get here, we gotta go out if you come to Tokyo. All right.
I got you.
Yo, that's official right there.
The literal meaning of homegirl. That's my homegirl. That's the literal meaning. That's what it's about.
All right, y'all.
All right, y'all. Peace, everybody.
Well, thanks, everybody. Farewell.